America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. Usually I come to you every Friday, but a little bit of news happened last night that, I feel some sort of way about, and I wanted to tell the people, and I tried to make this video, but there was some issues with my technology. So if you don't like me to have issues with my technology, go ahead and go over to www.funkyacademic.com, put in some money, and then I'll get stuff that works every time that I press buttons. However, I want to tell you about Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson is a 5'8", 5'9" basketball player, and excuse me. He was a professional basketball player at that size. He won slam dunk competitions. He spent his whole life, having to exceed expectations that were externally imposed upon him. First of all, his height, and then what people told him about what his height meant and how to interpret his height. And, for the most part, he won, right? So what does it mean that he got knocked out? First of all, I'm going to just show you what happens and how this went down. All right. So Jake Paul is a YouTube personality, smart mouth boxer who actually trained in boxing for a long time, still trains, 23 years old, half Nate Robinson's age. Nate Robinson's a basketball player, former basketball player. I think he's retired, but he's short, but it's like my age. And just see how this played out. We'll just see how this played out. Gotta get my technology right. Thank you for your patience. Trying to find the right screen. Well, if you don't know, Robinson ended up getting knocked out a few times. It's boxing's very hard. You should know that. It's a whole thing. It's not something that you can do. It's something you can do well part-time, but there are professional fighters and professional boxers who box like it's their job, and then there are amateurs who are not the same. And Nate Robinson got, beaten by a guy who was training in boxing, right? Like he's a 23-year-old professional boxer who, he's a boxer. He's an actual boxer who did this full-time, just boxing, and was training with people who were actually serious about, knocking him out as a boxer, right? So who knows? Nate Robinson probably got the best trainers money could buy, who were not actually trying to knock out his consciousness. And here's the thing about boxing that you have to appreciate. Boxing, they're going after your consciousness. It's very immediate. They're like ball sports where you're in the way of them getting the ball. And so they have to go after you because you're in the way of them getting the ball. And then there's boxing where it's not about them going after you because you're in the way of the ball. They're actually going after your consciousness and after you. And so the ref is not there to stop them from getting your consciousness. The ref is there to certify that, yes, they knocked you out, right? So he went down, man. He went down. And what does that mean? It means that Nate can't do everything, and black men trying to do everything ends up John Henry'd. What does John Henry'd mean? John Henry was a steel driving man. You hear the song, and he was a black guy who thought he could beat a machine and ended up dying of a heart attack at the end. Right? So what does that mean? It means, the pride, you have to watch out. It means you can be extraordinary, but it'll end up with you dying early. Over what? Driving steel or boxing, right? So, and then what does it mean if you're black? Well, if you're Nate Robinson, the whole world is organized to actually keep you down. So you have to constantly just ignore every piece of advice that you're given by the world. And it's good that he ignored the advice about what his height meant to him for him being a professional basketball player. But sometimes there are things about the world, like, for example, professional boxing is a whole thing, and it's not something that you could just do for a few months, even if you're an incredible, exceptional athlete. And it's called the sweet science, in a way that these people had, like, they throw punches with bad intentions. And, young master, Jake Paul was not in the mood. Like, he doesn't care about your consciousness, or you, like, that's it. So, like, boxing is the sweet science, and a professional will beat an unprofessional, like someone who's not a professional. Like, someone who's trained and trains in boxing will beat someone who picks it up as a hobby. And there's a ferocity, and this is his first real professional fight versus Paul, who's been against a guy, and even one time in the ring against a guy who's going after your consciousness is educational, I suspect, versus someone who's like, you're paying to train you. Like, it's not tag, not trying to win on points, or winning on trying to, like, extinguish your consciousness. So what it means that, well, first of all, what you need to know about modernity is that it's characterized by this kind of division of labor. A division of labor that ends up leading to freedom in a way, because you don't have to do everything. You can just do one thing. You're now emancipated from necessity. You can figure out what you want to do and then do it. So the division of labor is part of modernity. But Black people, and I suspect Black men especially, don't get that division of labor. Oh, Black women too. They don't get that division of labor. You have to do everything. Having one job is white privilege. You have to do everything. And, like, I run into this with students on campus, because, like, maybe they're the first generation going to college, or they have a kind of a distressed family. So they're also, like, they have to go home and, like, handle logistics for the whole clan, and then come back to college, and, they have eyeglass prescriptions that are years old, so they can't see, so they're squinting at me, telling me about, like, how they have to be the administrative assistant for their entire, like, everyone with their last name on their block, while at the same time come back to school and then, do classwork. And of course they don't have enough money. So if you're the pastor, the lawyer, the doctor, the accountant, and all of these things, just being the resident smart guy who's good at looking things up, then you end up doing a lot of different jobs. And you get beat by white professional accountants who only do accounting, white professional lawyers who get to only do lawyers, white students who only get to be a student. They don't have to worry about the whole world and being the resource, the generic resource for everyone, right? So part of privilege is only having one job and having to do one job. And as a guy who tries to do too much because the world calls on me to do everything, including this show, and if you support me doing this show, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month, because I do this show. But after this, I have to also go, like, teach my kids everything. Like, I have to be, like, the whole institution for all of my kids, and then write a dissertation, and then, I guess be a role model, but, I'm a role model my way. But, and, family and be a member of society. People get on me, well, you talk all this much. How come you're not more out there in the community? Because I'm doing everything, right? So you can't do everything that you're called on to do as a Black man, or you end up knocked out by someone who only does one or two things, but they can actually study and be a professional at those one or two things. Right? So it's a complicated situation that Nate Robinson's all of us. He's all of us right now, he's all exceptional Black man. He's the one who said no to external determinants and became a basketball player. And he's also the one who said no to external determinants and said, yes, I can box as well as this guy who's been training in boxing. And that ended up with, him being knocked out in front of everyone. So, I mean, you remember, people don't know, Barack Obama was almost divorced. Like, Michelle Obama brought up divorce papers once he lost to Bobby Rush, saying, like, I'm not trying to be with no Negro who loses things. So, he lost. And maybe, and then he won, but, like, he lost and put all of his chips in. So, like, there's a way in which, like, Black life is riskier for Black people, and you're just called to do more things, and you don't have the world forming institutions to uphold you in the same way, right? So it's one thing where if you have an aspiration, you get to have one aspiration, do it, and then have the world, like in the form of America, to have institutions that support you doing it. It's another thing where you have to do it in spite of, you have to do everything and do everything in a world that is setting you up to fail. And, you can heroically overcome the odds, but justice for Black people does not look like heroically overcoming the odds. You shouldn't have to overcome odds. Like that's not justice. That's like heroism that usually ends up with an early death. The goal of justice is to not overcome the odds, but have the odds actually be in your favor. To actually have to do one thing, do it well, and do it well enough so that you're not called upon to do everything, or that you don't have to do everything, or don't. Yeah. So, modernity is not set up for Black success because modernity entails a division of labor, and right now, exceptional Black people are called on by the actual world to do everything. I take my eye off my kids, I end up with screwed up kids, so I have to be the perfect dad. Take my eye off of school, I end up with screwed up school, I have to be the perfect student. Take my eye off of this, and you guys all end up, screwing up your lives and confusing your friends. So I have to do it all, and I take my eye off the community. You have to do it all, and that is an unfortunate tax on caring about justice for the Black people. So I hope this has been educational. I hope after this, you don't have to be both the family accountant but you will. Like, I can't change. I can just clarify the problem. I make the implicit explicit. I was explaining this to my daughter. She's 7. I make the implicit explicit. I can't solve all the problems, but I can put them out there so that you can understand what it means for Nate, Robinson to get knocked out by a professional boxer, by a boxer who takes boxing seriously, as opposed to Nate, who's trying to do everything because he's had to always do everything. Had to always do everything in a world that doesn't want him to do anything except pick cotton. All right. And go to jail now. All right. Go to jail and work for Amazon. All right. So thank you for your time. And I hope this has been educational. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.thefunkyacademic.com and kick in $5.15